Blizzard Activision is one of the worst companies on the planet. We all know it, you know it, that's the way it is. They have been caught in so many things that it is difficult to even quantify what a morally depraved company we are talking about. Whenever you bring up a company that has had a literal Cosby room, or when you talk about a company whose CEO is alleged to have tried to bring harm to others, well, you're dealing with the bottom of the barrel. And yet this company is going farther than any other company we have ever seen in terms of the celebration of the month of June. It's bigger than Target. It's farther than Kohl's. It's more than any alcoholic beverage company out there. But it's only in places where it's allowed because they won't raise a finger. Places like China or other countries that say no, no, no. All right, folks, and welcome back to another fantastic day here on the WDW Pro channel. We've got an awesome panel here with us today to go through an issue that is filled with landmines. And typically this would go onto Twitter. This would be a Twitter exclusive where I think it would be a little bit more safe. Yet this is such a big deal that we do need to cover it here, and we're going to do so carefully. As we get into this topic, I want to preface it by saying to everybody out there watching this video that no matter who you are, what your beliefs are, what your thoughts are on orientations and all of those kinds of issues, that you are a valuable person, and we recognize that. We recognize the divine worth inside each and every person out there. And though we may disagree, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps you will agree with everything we have to say. We just want to affirm your dignity and affirm that you really do matter, and we care about you. Now, let's get into this content. If you like this kind of content, click the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. Force of Light is here, Eric is here, Floral from Under a Rock, all to help us get into this situation with Overwatch. All right, from the Overwatch team, this is from the actual official page, Celebrate Pride in Overwatch 2. Now, we all know that companies like to celebrate this because, well, they like to sell the merchandise when it's convenient. This game is taking it to an all-new level. We also know that there has been a backlash as of late towards companies for some of this stuff. We're not here to necessarily sway you in any particular direction other than we just want to break down the truth for you and tell you what's going on with the market and what's going on with entertainment. Here's what it says. Pride is coming to Overwatch 2. Overwatch 2 is a joyful escape for millions of players worldwide. Remember, this is an 8-year-old game, and remember that it is directed at children. It is rated T for teen. It is PEGI 12 in Europe. This is a game for children. We always set out to create a futuristic world that is worthy or worth fighting for, where everyone feels seen and celebrated. This game is only worthy of that hopeful world if people can connect with our heroes and see themselves in the universe. Now, notice that it's not talking about if you see yourself as Christian or if you see yourself as Jewish, or if you see yourself as any religious background at all. No, this is just about bedroom stuff. That's it. We want Pride to be that for our players, and just as important, we want that for ourselves. One thing we have heard from both players and Overwatch team members alike is that seeing themselves in the game over the years has helped them find the strength and courage to show the world who they are, but only if it's related to this particular subject. Now, what I want to hand it over to the panel before we even get into the rest of this stuff, and it's a lot, but before we even go into this with the rest of the article, I want to talk to all of you about this issue of pride, because this gets left on the table, and people dive into this very deep discussion about the morality of all these different parts of the flag, of the pride flag, etc. But I want to focus in on just the term pride, and I want to hand it to all three of you. We'll start with Michelle, but when we're looking at specifically Christianity and Judaism, and perhaps, I'm not sure about Islam on this particular topic, but pride in and of itself, just pride, is considered sinful. It's considered to miss the mark, to not be in alignment with living the best life. And so this idea of pride in anything that has to do with yourself is not supported by Christianity. It's not supported by Judaism, perhaps some of these other religions. Humility is what is typically taught by the world's religions. And so this seems to me always for all of these companies when they do this to severely disenfranchise people who think that pride is not the way to live your life. Michelle, what do you think?
Yeah, well, I mean, I thought of two scriptures when you're talking. Pride comes before a fall, and then also that God gives grace to the humble, but resists the proud.
Absolutely.
Like you're saying, I mean, pride it just goes against, I mean, really the most fundamental Christian beliefs of humility, of servitude, of denying self. I mean, our Lord and Savior took up a cross. So I mean, denying yourself, not just like giving in to whatever urge you have. It just all kind of goes against Christian beliefs.
Absolutely.
So I'll give my framework that I try to give typically in these conversations, so everyone knows my bias in it. Just going back to Genesis, even in that God makes man and woman and gives them the commands, and then they do what they're convinced of, right, by Satan, and so they choose to do the thing that they're the one command that they're told not to do, and so they reject God and they put what they want in front of him. Later on in scripture, that's seen as doing what's right in your own eyes, and so people start following what they want to do. And the book of Romans in chapter 1 and 2, it really summarizes, right? And so there's oftentimes a lot of flack that people get when you talk about Romans chapter 1, you go into like verse like all the way from 16 all the way into like chapter 2 verse, I think it's like 12 or whatever, where Paul, he starts off talking about how the creative order and how people rejected God. They rejected his order, and so you see the breakdown of what is the natural relationship, which is supposed to mirror the relationship between God and men, so that gets distorted. And then he lists off this enormous list of other sins, and then he says, and those of you who condone these things, you're also judged. Oh, and by the way, and this is where you go into chapter 2, Paul's like, those of you guys who think you're moral and you judge these people, you're no better. And so Paul goes into this whole thing condemning everyone, because everyone is guilty of this base thing of doing what's right in our own eyes, and going back to what he initially talked about in inverting that whole relationship and putting us first instead of God. So that's my bias. That's where I'm coming from within this conversation, if that makes sense.
Makes sense. Eric, what do you make of this idea that pride, in other words, putting yourself first, or putting yourself as being the moral authority of your life versus objective truth, or perhaps transcending truth, that this game then requires that children log in and their families may not even know that when they log in that they're participating in a giant celebration of something that perhaps they don't agree with. Now, the audience can disagree with that. The audience can say, oh, no, you're on the wrong side of history, or this is horrible, or I can't believe you're even having this conversation. But I'm just looking at this and saying that families have different values. And I continue to be unimpressed when companies present children with values that may subvert their family's values and don't explicitly tell the parents.
Mm-hmm. So pride is an issue of identity. And it's frustrating when a company takes a minority identity position and more or less forces it upon the majority, and forces people to play in an environment that they would not necessarily choose for themselves. And so I think that they're going to see the backlash that other companies have seen, simply that people are going to just say, I don't want to be part of this social issue.
Sure. And let it be said, too, that this company will not do this in China. They will not do it in the Middle East. They will not do it in any country where it would cause them financial harm. Now, we don't know what will happen, of course, in the United States and other Western countries that seem to be moving in a particular financial direction in regards to these sorts of things when they're pushed a little bit too far. But this company will not raise a finger when it comes to these countries that would have an issue with it. And so it's utterly hypocritical. This is also a company that has been accused of just horrendous issues inside their offices, including issues that come into this domain, the bedroom domain. And so this is not a company that has any standing to do anything virtuous, period, whether or not you think that they're on the right side of history or not. But let's take a look at this. This is what I find to be so blatantly wrong with what they're doing. Beginning on June 1st, everybody that logs into Overwatch 2 will receive an extensive collection of profile player icons and name cards celebrating the many diverse identities that make up the tapestry of this fantastic community. The full list of cosmetics can be found below. And so, in other words, let's say that you are a Muslim child, and let's say that your parents don't think that this is the right way to go. And maybe they're wrong. That's not the issue for this conversation today. We can have that conversation, but not right now, because there's something fundamentally wrong with this idea that a Muslim child could log into this and just read what these icons and name cards are for. They're for celebrating the many diverse identities. And so if their parents disagree with that, it doesn't matter. If the child disagrees with it, it doesn't matter. You're not allowed to say no. No doesn't work with these people. You're supposed to be able to say no in almost any situation, right? No means no. But with these companies, you're not allowed to say no any longer. They will give you this content regardless. So let's go around real quick. I mean, how problematic is this? To me, let me put this a little bit more in specificity. To me, this feels like the idea that you walk into Target or you walk into Kohl's and they force you to take, one of these shirts or a piece of this merchandise with every purchase you make. You're not allowed to leave the store with the content you want unless you agree to take this. And they'll give it to you for free, but you can't make a purchase without it. Michelle?
It's just totally anti-American. Anti-religious liberty, freedom of speech, like so many different things are kind of getting, really just, again, back to religious liberty, like our rights to not be infringed upon of what we believe. That's just totally coming against that, because we can tolerate things we don't necessarily celebrate. And we shouldn't be required to celebrate something that certain people may or may not believe in.
Look, well, let's flip it, Michelle. What would happen in the media? Let's just play this game. What would happen in the media? And perhaps there will be a number of people out there listening to this video right now that will have an aha moment. But what would happen if, when you logged in around Christmas time, if every single player, regardless of whether they believe in Christianity or not, was forced to take Christian iconography, nameplates and pictures and sprays and all of this stuff, and there was a huge post that celebrated Christianity, and it didn't matter. It didn't matter if you are Islamic. It didn't matter if you were Hindu. None of that would matter. You have to take it, period, to play the game. I have a feeling that the media would be up in arms. Don't you?
We know they are, because, even using that holiday, let's use that holiday. It went from Merry Christmas, invoking the name of a Christian holiday, Christ, and to Happy Holiday, something very general and inoffensive. So they already showed us that they don't want to be forced into our holiday, and that's fine. But then you need to do the same on your end.
Absolutely. Eric, it seems to me that they are taking a default position, these companies. The default position is that this pride and everything that it entails, which is a lot, by the way, we'll get into that in just a moment. Everything that it entails is by default virtuous. And if you disagree, then you are non-virtuous. But the funny thing to me is that this is being pushed at a corporate level. And that is just odd to me, that corporations, global corporations, are now in charge of sexual morality. And whatever people might think, again, the audience is free to disagree with whatever positions each guest might hold. But do we not find it odd that we have handed over the morality question to global corporations who their desire is to get as much money out of you as possible?
Yes.
So I agree with you that it's concerning that a company that is focused, or a game that is focused toward children and teens, is making those moral decisions. I'm concerned with the larger social issue that we're facing, where we're saying pride is the primary virtue. We're making self-centeredness the primary virtue, when historically what is best in community is humility. It's choosing to elevate the needs of others above self. And so what we're doing with these games, and all these other issues that you've mentioned, is that we're radically defining what it means to live in relationship with one another. It's no longer how do we share in life together and what's best for others, but now it's my preference and what I want, and these values again are being passed on to that younger generation.
Absolutely, and it's being passed to them again through these corporations which subvert the family. They don't ask for permission to get to engage with this. By the way, we have another guest joining the panel at this time. Let's welcome Jonas J. Campbell to the panel. And let's continue on. I want to get Floral's take on this next part here, because this is very interesting to me. Up until this time, and I find it odd that we are diving into the orientations of characters. Perhaps it's necessary, but up until this time, there were two characters inside this game that were of that orientation, non-traditional. And for this event, this is what's so funny to me, the monetization of this. For this event, they just made 3 more characters be oriented in this way. So here's what it says. Name cards allow you to choose how you identify within the game. And you'll notice specific ones dedicated to some of our LGBTQ plus heroes. By the way, there is never at any point, any other time, when any of this is done for any other topic inside the game. You'll find a lesbian card for Tracer, a gay card for Soldier 76, a pansexual card for Lifeweaver, as well as a bisexual card for Baptiste and a lesbian card for Farah. 3 of those characters just being announced yesterday as being any of this orientation. For years, players have speculated on the sexual orientations of Baptiste and Farah. How bizarre. And we are thrilled to not only include them in these Pride cosmetics, but also publish a brand new short story focusing on their identities, each other, and themselves. Floral, none of this is being done in any country where it would cause harm to the company. They could choose to do it. They could be banned from those companies, and then perhaps we might even consider that they are in some way virtuous, but they will do none of that. What do you make of it?
Well, it's a constant thing. I mean, was it 5 years ago or maybe even less? I don't know. Time flies by now. But they did the same thing to Luke, right? And saying that, exploring that, Luke Skywalker. And so, I mean, they're just willing to take whoever and change it. And because one person has this weird thought that they want to pursue, now all of a sudden there's a fan base for this fan fiction, and it's awkward and it's weird. My general take is, when it comes to all of this stuff in general, by and large, most people don't align with it nor think of it as a value. And the reason for that thought is, you see that within the box office, you see it within just the things that even parents bring in their homes. No one really wants this stuff in general, right? Obviously, you're going to find the odd person here and there, but most people don't actually allow it in. I mean, look at the movies that have tanked in the box office. So you see that in general, people are not with it. And so it's the corporations that are pushing this. And there's been this. And again, I understand that there's ESG and all that stuff that factors in and all that, but I think by and large, most people just don't want it. And so you don't see this stuff sell, so they have to give it away. I'm up here in Canada where, I mean, for the last month and a half, or I guess the last 2 weeks, I should say, not month, it's been pride flags have already been up and all this kind of stuff. And my kids, they are in public school. I wish they weren't, but it's a huge thing. So here it's even stuffed down their throats even further. And most people, I think, they don't oppose it verbally. They oppose it with their actions, right? And so most people just say what they feel they're told to say, not what they actually believe. If I'm making sense there.
Absolutely.
So it's yeah, like people, they just don't want to be judged. They just don't want to be called names. So they're just like, you know what? I'm fine with it. It's whatever. Just leave me alone. Right. And it's not even just leave me alone though, but like when you actually follow the money, it's not a value. And that's where I think you see, because again, we spend our money where our heart is. And so, I think by and large, what you'll see with the, I keep saying by and large, nothing about this stuff is going to be utilized. I mean, there's going to be the odd person that uses it, but most people, they might just throw it on for the day or whatever, just because they think it looks funny or whatever, but no one's going to actually care. 3 months down the road, no one's going to be using this stuff in the game. And that's just how it goes in general. Right.
The only issue I think here also, though, is that children are quite impressionable. And so when something is presented as a societal crusade, let's say, then suddenly something that should probably never be elevated to this level becomes the cause de force for the moment, where we all have to get behind orientations and all of these vast number of orientations, which were before never really parsed out this way up until 5 minutes ago, and now they are sort of quasi-religiously followed. Jonas, you are joining us. I think Eric had to step out for a moment. Perhaps he'll be able to join back in. But Jonas, I want to take a look at these flags that everybody gets. Everybody receives these just by logging into the game. They become your possession. And by the way, these are items that have monetary value, I suppose, because all the other cosmetics you purchase and can buy. So let's take a look at this. You've got the agender flag, the aromantic flag, the asexual flag, the bisexual flag, the gay flag, the gender fluid flag, the intersex flag, the lesbian flag, the non-binary flag, pansexual flag, transgender flag, progress pride flag, I guess, intersex inclusive progress flag, Overwatch pride flag, and the rainbow flag. So, Jonas, you gonna be logging into Overwatch anytime soon?
Well, I need to catch up on my vexillology, I feel like, before I'm gonna be logging in.
By the way, Jonas, you also get those are all also created name cards for this.
Right. The point here that I see, and the problem in incorporating this into kids and teenage content quietly, is that a lot of this is done in a way that it makes kind of an end run around parents, and it supersedes the parental right to have a discussion with your kids about these subjects before you have a faceless corporation present to you whatever the approved message is. And as we've seen, that approved message is not always in line with what parents would say. And I would say that's part of the intention in presenting it in this way, that you get to tell these kids that you don't have any consequence in your life when you make this game. You don't have to bear the consequences of incorporating these ideas into a child's life and changing the way they see the world, and maybe making them doubt things that they wouldn't doubt, or putting an idea in their head. If we see, I'll give a for instance, statistically speaking, you are much more likely to identify as any of these things in, say, California, than you are in, say, the Midwest United States.
Right. California versus Oklahoma.
Right. If we're talking about immutable characteristics, why is there a geographic component here?
Well, that's a good point. And again, we're not here to condemn anyone. We're not here to tell you guys what to believe. We believe our audience is more than capable of coming to your own conclusions. But the way I want to wrap up this video is that this is a horrible company. I mean, it is just a horrid company. Anybody out there can go look up the controversies this company has been involved in. And again, they are not doing this anywhere in which it would cause them any kind of loss of money. They're not going to do it anywhere where they would be punished for doing it. And we're not talking about like they're going to be arrested. We're talking about they might lose, for example, being able to sell their game in China. None of this. None of it. The virtue stops when it becomes difficult. So I just want to hand it. We'll go around the horn. Give me your thoughts. And I'm particularly interested in this as well. Of all the things that we could spend a month on, we do 1 day for mothers. We do 1 day for fathers. We do 1 day for people who gave their lives for their countries. We do 1 day to give thanks. We give 1 day for so many things. Of all the issues in the world, why do you think that corporations, and this is a corporate drive, why have corporations decided that we're going to do this for a month for this particular issue out of every issue in the world?
I'm just going to say I don't think this is the video for that full conversation. But I just...
so much temptation to go there.
Yeah, it's just too much. But let's just say they want it. That's why it keeps being pushed so hard. They want it for like it to be more accepted and not so taboo. That's what they want.
For the actualization of an adult more
Yes.
than the actualization of a child.
That's the other peculiar thing. They continue to push this into the domain of children's activities.
Mhm.
And that's just strange. It doesn't make any sense in any traditional value or the way we've acted for perhaps thousands of years. People knew for thousands of years that children were off limits when it comes to these kinds of issues. And suddenly that's the anti-virtuous position to take according to global corporations. Final thoughts, everybody.
I just know in Canada we got Pride season, so you guys got Pride month.
Oh, you get how many months does Pride season take?
Well, they've hijacked the entire summer here. So
is that state sponsored or is that
it's
private entity
it's
sponsored?
Everybody pushing it all for the entire season. So like all of summer is gone now, right? I'm just like, I don't know. There's this whole big push, and again, and I want to make it like a simplistic, like they want to affirm their own decisions, and so they're just trying to like inject it into everyone else and make sure they're affirmed. But I tend to believe that it's a little bit more nefarious than that. But again, I'm just done. Right?
Yeah.
Like if that's just
Well, it seems the market is sort of on your side. I mean, we've seen this massive backlash that never really manifested in the past. Jonas, I'm going to give you the last word on this, and then we'll go around and let people know.
Do you mind? I want to say something on that, if you don't mind, really quick.
Yeah, go for it.
I would just say to all companies and to anyone that maybe has disagreed with some of the things we said and has stuck around, the point that is the point too far, like you've gone too far for most people, is putting this in children's stuff. Like children have like innocence and it's beautiful and they have it for only so many X amount of years in their life. And to try to rob children of that is wicked. And most people realize that. And that's why they don't like it.
And most people have known that throughout all of history. I mean,
yes.
We just know that. In fact, our internal instincts, our natural internal instincts are to protect children from this kind of stuff. Now, Jonas, for your final word, I want you to go in this direction for me. The interesting part about it, yes, I get it, interestingly worded, but what I find to be nefarious about all of this, beyond the kid aspect, is that let's say that you agree with the L, or you agree with the G, or you agree with the B, or maybe you even agree with the LGBT, but you don't agree with the Q, or maybe you agree with the Q but not the L, or you agree with the I and the A and the plus, or maybe you don't know what the plus means, et cetera, et cetera. All of this is packaged together.
Mm-hmm.
And if you disagree with any part of it, then you disagree with all of it. You don't get to just say, hey, I'm all for gay couples getting married, or I'm all for lesbian couples getting married, but I don't know about that whole thing about dressing up like a creature and stalking around. That's pretty weird to me. You don't get to do that because it's all packaged together. Is that purposeful? And do you think that people have had enough?
Yes, it is purposeful because the L and the G didn't necessarily get along in the past, and the B didn't necessarily get along with the L and the G. But they found themselves at odds with a society that they wanted acceptance in, and so there was an alliance here of L, G, and B. And these three exist in a binary concept. It acknowledges two genders, and it acknowledges that there is an attraction between those genders. Once you get past that, it gets a little bit murkier. T questions the concepts of the L, the G, and the B. The I is, I don't know why that's in there. That's something that's usually settled around birth, could lead to other things. A, what is A even doing here? A is silent. Nobody's bothered by this. The Q is saying that you can be whatever you want to be. And that kind of strains some of the more scientific aspects. And I'll finish by saying this. Plus is the problem. And plus is the big sinister thing sitting over there saying, okay, what is plus? And if you all could say plus does not mean this and will never mean this, then I think you'd actually make a lot more people more comfortable with whatever it is that you're wanting to push forward here. But the problem is plus keeps moving farther and farther out until we get to things that make you suspicious of why all of this is being marketed to children.
And it is over
and it is
over
being
and
marketed
over.
to children. So I think the time has come for, say, the super traditional people to maybe band together with maybe the first half of this acronym and say, hey guys, can we reel it back in a little bit here?
That's a good idea. I would like to see harmony in society. I would like to see us get together, all the rational people who know that kids really aren't part of this, and also that you don't force people, you don't force consumers to take things that they might morally disagree with. And that goes both ways. Christians should not force non-Christians to have Christian iconography if they want to buy something from their store. And likewise, these individuals who go on to Overwatch 2 to play it, who might disagree with this concept, should not be forced to have this in their inventory. This is not cool. It goes against just basic understanding of leaving people alone and letting them determine their own values and their own beliefs. In fact, it feels a little authoritarian, and that's not cool. All right, Michelle, where can people find you on this great, big, beautiful web out there?
Yes. First off, thank you for having me. But you guys can find me and my sister at Force of Light Entertainment on YouTube, also Force of Light Entertainment on Instagram and Twitter.
All right, and Floral.
You can find me on Floral from Under a Rock. We run on Wednesday nights from 9 till 10 Eastern. And actually, I guess because this will be premiering tomorrow, Michelle will be on, and so
awesome.
She'll get to be hanging out with these guys, and so we'll see what happens there. Otherwise, yeah, we just make random stuff and make funny little moments for Pro to cut down and make smaller and quicker and snappier.
And then the director's cut goes to your channel.
Yep.
All kinds of fun. Jonas, where can people find you?
You can find me on That Park Place, where I'm an investigative reporter, and I'm always digging into things that sticking my nose in places it shouldn't be. I'm also the producer of the Pro Show, which is on Thursdays, 5 to 7. And we have a wonderful conversation about pop culture there in all the news that should be fun. Or you can find me on my channel, which is at the moment called Jonas J. Campbell. It's on YouTube. And now on Rumble, if you're watching this during Pride Month, you can see a new video every month, or you can watch them all on YouTube where I actually make money on it. Or you can reach me on Twitter at Jonas J. Campbell, where I love.
Or do both. Do both.
That's right. Just stream it until the bank account fills, guys.
There you go. Well, folks, we hope you have enjoyed this conversation. It is fraught with landmines. It is as contentious a discussion as you can have. But we have endeavored to do it in a way that respects all people and hopefully shows you that the issues we're discussing are issues that come from global corporations. Global corporations who do not have the best interests at heart for any of us. They just want money, and they just want to make money off of kids. They're not virtuous. They're just doing whatever they can to build up their coffers. And in this case, this is a really bad company. So, whoever you are out there, if you identify as any of the topics that we've brought up, we want you to know that we care about you, that you are greatly worthy of dignity and respect in this world. We never want you to forget that. Beliefs may differ, but that does not change the dignity of each and every human being. So folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe, and you can stick it to the algorithms. When you click it, we're talking about the notification bell. Yes, the comments are available, and it's your turn. As you drop those comments down, please be respectful and kind. Remember that people may have very fundamental differences with one another, but that doesn't change the fact that you can be respectful and that kindness can come through in everything you say, even when you disagree. Folks, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.